Before we just start wildly grabbing individual tools, we really need to know how to diagnose our AI patient properly so we know exactly which treatment to apply. You can think of this matrix as your diagnostic cheat sheet. It gives you a crystal clear mental framework for exactly which lever to pull, depending on your dataset size and the severity of the overfitting. For instance, L2 regularization, that's a tool you should almost always use. Then we have Dropout for your medium to large networks, early stopping, which is pretty much universally applicable whenever you're monitoring validation loss, and data augmentation for when your dataset is just too small. Notice we've also got batch normalization in the mix here. Now, while it's primarily used for training stability, it actually gives you a mild regularizing effect as a nice little bonus. And finally, down at the bottom, we have reducing model capacity, which is strictly your last resort for when severe overfitting persists despite everything else.
Moving on to tool number 1, Section 2, L2 Regularization, your default shield. Let's start with your baseline defense, L2 regularization, which you might also know as weight decay. This is your default shield, and quite frankly, it's something you should almost always be doing right out of the gate. What's really elegant here is the math. By adding a penalty term to our original loss function, specifically a parameter called lambda multiplied by the sum of the squared weights, we fundamentally change the model's incentives. Simply put, this mathematical penalty physically forces the model to keep its weights small. Now, why does that matter? Well, because to fit every tiny random fluctuation of noise in your training data, a model typically requires massive extreme weight values. So by penalizing those large weights, we effectively prevent the model from obsessing over those noisy, completely irrelevant data points.
When you compare these two scenarios, the visual impact of that math is undeniable. Look at a model with unchecked massive weights. It creates these incredibly jagged, complex decision boundaries that twist and turn trying to perfectly classify every single training anomaly. It's literally just fitting the noise. But when we apply L2 regularization, keeping those large weights in check, it completely transforms that chaotic overfitted model into one with a smooth, reliable decision boundary. And that is exactly what will generalize beautifully to new, unseen data.
And honestly, the best part is how incredibly easy it is to implement. If you're using modern frameworks like PyTorch or Keras, you don't even have to write the math yourself. But you do need to remember this magic number, 1e to the 4. This is widely considered the absolute sweet spot default for your weight decay parameter. If you push it too high, say up to 1e to the 1, you're going to strangle the model and cause it to underfit. But if you set it too low, like 1e to the 7, it just won't have any measurable effect. So always start at 1e to the 4.
Stepping up the escalation ladder, we arrive at Section 3, Dropout, the implicit ensemble.
So, here we're bringing a bit of deliberate, controlled chaos into the training process. During training, Dropout works by independently taking random neurons and just turning them off. It sets them to 0 with a certain probability p. Think of this like a high-stakes study group where half the participants randomly fall asleep during every single session. If you know your teammates might pass out at any given moment, you can't just rely on one person to memorize the critical chapters, right? You are forced to learn redundant representations. Every remaining student has to learn absolutely everything so that no single person becomes a critical point of failure. This brilliant trick forces the neural network to distribute its learning across the entire architecture.
The crucial point here, though, is the dropout rate. Like, how many neurons do we actually turn off? Well, 0.5, so 50%, is your standard go-to rule of thumb for medium to large networks. I know, dropping half the network sounds super drastic, but it practically guarantees that your model develops incredibly robust, overlapping internal representations.
However, you really have to be context-aware here. If you're working with a smaller network, dropping half the neurons might literally destroy its ability to learn anything at all. In those specific cases, you'll want to dial that back to a probability of maybe 0.2 or 0.3. Oh, and here is a massive warning that developers sometimes forget. Never, ever use dropout on your output layer. You only apply this hitting layer chaos during training, absolutely never to your final predictions.
Moving right along to Section 4, Early Stopping, where timing is literally everything. Now, early stopping is perhaps the simplest, most intuitive fix in our entire toolbox. It is exactly like pulling a cake out of the oven at the precise moment before it burns. As you train, your training loss is going to keep going down, but at some point, your validation loss, how it performs on unseen data, will stop improving and might actually start climbing. That's the exact moment the cake starts burning. Early stopping works by actively monitoring that validation loss. You set a patient's parameter, usually around 5 to 10 epochs. If the validation loss plateaus and doesn't improve for those 5 epochs, the training halts automatically. But it doesn't just stop, it actively reaches back and reverts your model to the very best state it saw, say back at epoch 15. It essentially acts as a time machine for your model weights.
Next up, Section 5, Data Augmentation, or, as I like to call it, free data. So, what if your model's overfitting simply because it hasn't seen enough of the world? If you've got a small dataset, data augmentation is practically magic because it essentially gives you free data. It works by creating slightly modified copies of your existing training examples. For images, this might mean applying random rotations, maybe flipping the image horizontally, shifting it a few pixels, or jittering the brightness and contrast. For text, it might mean back translation, like translating a sentence from English to French and then back to English just to get a slightly varied phrasing, or using synonym replacement. By doing this, you are basically giving the model the exact same test, but with the pages printed upside down or in a completely different font. It completely shatters the model's ability to just memorize the pixel layout or the exact word sequence. It is forced to learn the core, underlying features. Finally, Section 6, Capacity Control, which is your absolute last resort.
So, if you've applied all our previous tools, you added L2, you implemented Dropout, you monitored with early stopping, you even augmented your data, and that severe overfitting still persists, well, now we must move to the nuclear option. You are performing major structural surgery here. If your model is memorizing everything, it means its capacity, essentially its brain size, is simply too large for the complexity of your dataset. You have to physically reduce the size of your model. Step 1. Reduce the number of layers, maybe dropping from 5 layers down to 3. Step 2. Shrink the width by reducing the number of neurons per layer, perhaps going from 512 down to 128. And step 3, if it's still way too complex, abandon the multi-layer perceptron entirely and use a much simpler architecture like a linear model. You do this step by step, continually testing those intermediate sizes along the way until you find the exact right fit.
But you need to tread very carefully with this kind of power, because if you chop down the capacity too aggressively, you're going to swing the pendulum entirely the other way. You will essentially lobotomize the model to the point where it can't even grasp the basic patterns in the training data, and that causes severe underfitting. So it's a very delicate balancing act.